Well, hi there again, everybody. It's time for more baseball from the Baseball Replay Journal. And today we have another 1908 game for you. This time it's the Cleveland Naps going to Detroit to take on the Detroit Tigers. And both teams are at 1-2 so far. And we are at the future site, at least, of Bennett Field or Tiger Stadium, or whatever name you want to give it, actually, as Detroit had played games at the same spot for a long, long time until Tiger Stadium was finally torn down. And here comes Napoleon Lajoie, and he is the first hitter here for the Naps in the start of the first inning to lead this game off. Facing Ed Killian, the Tigers starter. Lajoie, of course, is the reason why the Cleveland team is called the Naps. They were very proud of the fact that they were able to get him. And there's a rule of a 12 for a 24, and that brings up the little E. And the final roll is a 41 outside of the range. That means it's a little ground ball to shortstop, and Schaefer's got it, goes over to first base for the first out. You know, Lajoie, the interesting story behind him is he was playing with the Phillies back in 1900, picked up by the Athletics, Connie Mack's Athletics, before the 1901 season, one of Ban Johnson's big coups. And then for 1902, there was a bunch of worry in the courts, and there was a big to-do, and he was no longer eligible to play in Philadelphia. That's how he wound up in Cleveland. And for years, whenever the Cleveland team would go over to Philadelphia, Lajoie would not be in the lineup. I know, I've looked at the lineups myself. It's a very, very interesting phenomenon. Clark now, Josh Clark rolls a 32 for a 26. This little ground ball over to Downs at second base, 2 away. All sorts of interesting things you learn when you actually learn about the history of the game. Next is George Stovall, rolls a 43 for a 29. That's a little one tap back to Killian at the mound. He makes the play over to first base, and that does it. Here comes Ty Cobb, always dangerous, hitting .333 on the season. Cobb rolls a 35 for an 8, and that is a little ground ball over to shortstop, and Pairing has it for the first out. Here's Matty McIntyre now. Rolls a 52 for a 27. As a ground ball over to Bradley at third base for the second out, as he throws to first. Sam Crawford now rolls a 55 for a 7, and that is a single to right field against Berger and against really everybody, because you're not going to be able to do much against the 7 with bases empty. Here's Claude Rossman now. The roll is a 44 for another 7, and that one is a single to right center field, and it's Birmingham who has the ball, and you see the second number here is his throwing rating. He has a 3 for a throwing rating, and so he makes the play, throws it over to Bradley at third base in time to get his man, and that is the third out of the inning. We go to the top of the second inning, no score. Detroit with 2 hits in the ball game, and that's all the offense we've had so far. The first batter up is Bill Hinchman. He rolls a 25 for a 9. That's a pop fly out to third base, and it's Coughlin who has that one away. Next is Bill Bradley, rolls a 21 for a 30. It's a fly out to left field, 2 away now, and it's Joe Birmingham's turn at bat, and he rolls a 55 for a 9, and that's another pop foul out to Coughlin behind third base, and that does that. And here come the Tigers in the bottom of the second. First up is Red Downs, rolls a 46 for a 27, and there's a little ground ball to third base, and that's Bradley who has it, and he throws to first, 1 away. Next up, Bill Coughlin rolls a 63 for a 30. That's a fly ball over to Clark in left field, 2 away. Here's Germany Schaefer. Rolls a 56 for a 30, and that's another one that goes over to left field to Clark. And we go to the top of the third, no score. George Pairing now rolls a 13 for a 39. Unusual play result number. That winds up just being a strike. Next, he rolls a 45 for a 14, and that's a walk by Killian, giving up his first walk, not just of the game, but of the season. Here's Harry Bemis now, runner on first base. And the roll is a 21 for a 30, and there's a little fly ball over to McIntyre in left field, and that is the first out of the inning. Up now is Heine Berger, and we're going to bunt, of course, with Heine, despite the fact that Pairing is a slow runner, because there's nothing else that Berger can do. Rolls a 41 for a 28. The bunt goes back to Killian at the mound. He has it, he throws over to the second baseman covering a first base, and that is the second out as Pairing moves up to second. And here's Lajoie again with a runner on second base, always dangerous. Rolls a 45 for a 14, and boy, that little white die was going to be something else, and it just managed to barely jump over if you watch that replay. Here's Josh Clark now, runners on first and second, and there's a 34 for a 44. That's a little fly ball to center field, or is it? We have the little E to worry about, and the roll for the little E is a 43, and so it does end up being a little pop fly over to center field, and it's Crawford making the catch. Here's Ira Thomas now for the Tigers, bottom of the third inning. He rolls a 36. That's a 33. We'll have our little E roll first, and it ends up being 32, so nothing happening. That's a little pop fly over to Lajoie for the first out. Ed Killian now. Roll is a 61 for a 13. That's a strike 3, and here comes Ty Cobb now. 2 outs. Quiet game so far, and he rolls a 31 for an 8, which is a ground ball over to Paring at short. And he throws over to first base. That does that. We go to the top of the 4th inning. Nothing doing for either side. The roll for George Stovall, the leadoff hitter, is a 44 for a 7, and he gets a single to right field. Here's Bill Hinchman, and we're going to hit and run with the Naps. And there is a 56 for a 34, and that means it's a line drive over to short. Schaefer grabs it and makes the play, makes the out, and the Cats on the line drive, throws over to Rossman at first base for the double play. And just like that, there are 2 outs here in the top of the 4th. Here's Bill Bradley. He rolls a 35 for a 42, which is always the hit by pitcher, and Bradley takes his base. Up next is Joe Birmingham now, runner on first base, 2 outs for Cleveland. He rolls a 53 for a 16, and that's a little fly ball over to center field. Crawford's got it for the out. And here come the Tigers now in their half of the 4th inning. 0-0 the score still. Matty McIntyre rolls a 53 for a 15, and that's a little fly ball over to left field. Clark has it for the first out. Here's Sam Crawford, and he rolls a 35 for a 9. That is a single over short, and Crawford is the runner on at first base. Here's Claude Rossman, and it's time for hit and run. He rolls a 32 for a 26, and that's a little ground ball, hit and run ground ball over to Lajoie at second base. Makes the play at first for the out, and there are 2 outs now for the Tigers. Runner on second base, Crawford, who is fast, and here's Red Downs. Rolls a 31 for a 9, and that's a single over second base, and that scores the runner for the first run of the ball game. Downs now is the runner on first base. So the Tigers finally able to break free here, and it's a 1-0 score in favor of Detroit. And here comes Bill Coughlin, runner on first base. He rolls an 11 for a 7. It's a single to right center, and Birmingham winds up grabbing it again, making the play once again to third base, throwing over to Bradley for the out. And that ends the rally. It's 1-0 Tigers now going to the top of the 5th inning. First man up, George Paring, rolls a 35 for a 13. That's a 3rd strike, and there's 1 out. And next up is Harry Bemis. He rolls a 14 for a 43. And that brings up the little E, and the little E rolls a 45, which is totally out of the range. It's a fly ball to left field. McIntyre's got it for the out. 2 away now, top of the 5th inning. Next up is Heine Berger, rolls a 41 for a 28. That's the little ground ball over to shortstop, and Schaefer's got it, throws over to first base, and that does it. And it is Schaefer leading off the bottom of the 5th inning. How often this happens? He rolls a 66. 66 means double columns, and the second roll is a 13 for a 6, and that's a double to right center field. And the Tigers have something going on here. Next up is Ira Thomas, who, of course, is going to bunt. I'm looking at his card and thinking, let's swing away with this guy. He rolls a 36 for a 33, and we should have bunted, and that ends up being a little pop fly out over to Paring for the first out of the inning. And here's Ed Killian, and now you have to bunt. Germany Schaefer on his second base has got wheels. The roll is a 46 for a 13, and that's a foul strike. 0-1 the count now. Next is an 11, and we're about to waste a base hit as Killian will go double columns with this, and it's a 22 for a 6, and that means he gets the bunt down. That's a bunt over to Bradley at third base, who has to go to first base where Lajoie is covering for the out, and that's the second out. And here's Ty Cobb. That would have scored the runner, of course, if we'd swung away, but you'd be crazy in this case to swing away with Killian. Ty Cobb now rolls a 61 for a 40 with a runner on third base, and that's changed to a 38 through the system. That ends up being a fly ball over to Hinchman in right field. That does it, and we go to the top of the 6th inning. Tigers still holding on, clinging on to that 1-0 lead, and Ty Cobb not having a great game. He's 0 for 3 today. Here's Lajoie. Rolls a 56 for a 34, and that brings up our little E system, and the roll is a 36. Nothing happening. That's a little pop fly over to Schaefer at short. 1 away. Josh Clark now. And the roll is a 23 for a 32 fly ball over to right field, and that's Cobb that's got it there for the second out. And here's George Stovall. He rolls a 45 for a 14. That's a walk for him. Up comes Bill Hinchman now. Runner on first base, 2 outs for the Naps. The rule is a 41 for a 28. That's a little ground ball over to shortstop. Schaefer's got it and flips over to first base for the out. We go to the bottom of the 6th inning. Matty McIntyre now for the Tigers. The roll is a 54 for a 45. It's a little fly ball over to Hinchman and right. That's one away. Here's Sam Crawford now. Rolls a 62 for a 12. That's a little ground ball over to Stovall at first base, and he's got a beat on it, and that's the second out. Next is Rossman. He rolls a 55 for a 7 and gets the base hit. And so that brings up Red Downs now with Rossman on at first base. 7 hits for the Tigers, only 1 run. They have the only run of the ball game. He rolls a 41 for a 28, which means it's a little ground ball once again over to shortstop, this time to Pairing. He makes the play at first, and that does it. Up comes Bill Bradley for the Naps, down by 1 run in a tight game. Top of the 7th inning, he rolls a 56 for a 34. And the little E roll ends up being a 13, so that's going to be a 19 is the final result, and that means that that's a ground ball over to Coughlin at third base, who boots it, and Bradley's on at first. That brings up Joe Birmingham in a must-bunt situation for the Naps, down by 1 run, top of the 7th inning, and this is the tense part of this game. He rolls a 14 for a 43. We have another one of these little E rollings. Only 1 error in the ball game, and that was that error that we just saw. Well, there's another one coming up because this is going to be a 14, and this turns into a 18 is the play result, and that winds up being an error on the pitcher as Killian fumbles the bunt. And this is a clutch moment of this ball game, I would say, with 2 men on and nobody out for the for Cleveland for the visiting team, and it's going to be Pairing up next, and we'll see what happens here. This is, let's see here. That's the Tigers. This is a clutch moment of this game. This is really the first major scoring opportunity I would say that Cleveland has had all game long, and we'll see what they do with it. We'll see if they can make it count for anything or not. And that was Birmingham, who was fortunate enough to get on base with that error. And I tell you, without an error, I'm pretty sure that this. I'm pretty sure that this inning would probably be close to over by now. It's George Pairing now, and we're probably going to bunt once again with Pairing. And let's see what happens. And the roll is a 23 for a 30, which means the bunt's a good one. This one goes over to Killian once again. He's able to make the play and throws it over to first base for the out, and that moves up the runners to second and third. And it's a good thing for Detroit that Killian was able to actually make the play this time around. And now there's 1 away now with runners on second and third, and we have to wonder a little bit about what exactly the strategy is going to be. I'm taking a quick look at Berger's card to see if it would be better to walk Bemis and pitch to Berger, and I think that is what we're going to do. So the way that we do intentional walks, as always, is we're supposed to roll the dice, and we're supposed to say walk him. So we say walk him. We roll a 65. That would have been a little pop out to the catcher, nothing doing. And that brings up Heine Berger now with the bases loaded, 1 out, and we're going to, of course, bunt with Berger because there's nothing else we're going to do. We're not going to take him out of this game, not the way he's been pitching. Only giving up 1 run here on 7 hits through the 6 innings against the American League, the defending American League champions. So Berger is going to come up with instructions to bunt. Roll is a 36 for a 33, and the bunt is over to first base. It's Rossman who makes the play. He throws to the plate, and they get the runner for the second out, and Berger winds up as the runner on first base. The bases remain loaded, and the Naps still have 1 more shot at it, and it's none other than Lajoie coming up. With the bases loaded and a real clutch moment of this game. Let's see what happens here. The roll is Downs at 56 for a 34, and that means it's a line drive over to Downs at second base, and Downs makes the catch, and that is that. And that ends the rally in the top of the 7th inning for Cleveland, and that was a real clutch moment of this game. And the star player, one of the best players in the American League in 1908 still, ends up unable to produce anything. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Here's Bill Coughlin. Rolls a 55 for an 8, and there's a little ground ball over to shortstop, and it is going to be Pairing who takes that, throws over to first base for the first out. Germany Schaefer, apologies, rolls a 64 for a 29. That's back to Heine Berger at the pitcher, throws over to first base for the second out. Ira Thomas now rolls a 21 for a 31. That's a little pop up to center field. And Birmingham's got it, and that does it for the Tigers in the bottom of the 7th. Top of the 8th inning now, Josh Clark. And the question is, will Cleveland have another shot at it? Clark rolls a 25, and he gets a base hit on this 11. And then as Stovall comes up, you know the drill. Clark is able to steal second base. Here's George Stovall now with a chance to make something happen. Chance to score a run, maybe tie this ball game. Only the second hit for the Naps against Ed Killian, who's been pitching brilliantly in this one. Roll is a 66, and we're going double columns, and that run is going to score, baby. Second roll is a 14 for an 11, and Stovall winds up not only driving the run home with a single, but then he also steals the base as the next batter, Hinchman, comes in there. And this has turned into a brand new ball game. My apologies, the run doesn't score on that. This is what I get for not looking. The result of this, we're going to have to look a little bit close. This is one of those things. This is an APBA. You have to look a little bit close here. The runner is out at home by default unless he is an F, and that's what happened here. Clark, despite the fact that he's fast, he's got that 11 in the first column, 2 of them actually. He's good at stealing bases, but is not fast according to our run index. And so Clark was thrown out at home. He was thrown out at home, McIntyre to Thomas. And there is now 1 away, and the run does not score. And up comes Bill Hinchman now with 1 away, top of the 8th inning, 1-0 game. This is why you should always look before you leap. And the roll for Hinchman is a 36. That's going to be a 33 with a little E coming up. And little E is a 42, so nothing is happening there. It ends up being a pop fly over to shortstop, and it is Schaefer who's got it for the out. 2 away now, and here's Bill Bradley. And the heart of the Cleveland order just can't get it done here. They did get it done. Stovall got the base hit, but Clark allows himself to be thrown out of the plate, and he winds up being the GOAT of the moment. The pitch is into Bradley. He rolls a 35 for a 42, and he's hit by the pitch and takes a bag. Second time being hit by a pitch for Bill Bradley in this game. Here comes Joe Birmingham. He rolls a 46 for a 27, and there's a little ground ball over to third base. Coughlin has got it, goes over to Downs for the out. They get the force out, and we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Now, I know that Ed Killian has this Q1 rating. That's the reason why he's a D, despite not giving up any runs in this game. However, it's 1908. We're not taking him out. The first roll of the bottom of the 8th for Detroit is a 16 for Killian for a 26. That's a little ground ball over to second base where Lajoie has it. Throws over to first base for the first out. Ty Cobb now rolls a 54 for a 45, and that's going to be a fly ball over to Hinchman at right field, 2 out. And here's Matty McIntyre. Rolls a 21 for a 30, and that's a fly ball over to left field, and Clark has it, and that does that. Here we go now. You've made it with us all the way to the most crucial part of this game as George Perring comes up in the top of the 9th inning for Cleveland. Down 1-0. Only 3 hits in the game for Cleveland. Ed Killian's gone all the way for the Tigers. The first roll is a 52 for a 27. That's a ground ball to Coughlin at third base, and he throws over for the out. 1 away. Harry Bemis is up there now, and we are going to look at the bench and see who we can put in. And it was supposed to be Clark's day off, but we're going to pinch hit with Clark. Clark comes up hitting 200 on the season. Not hitting all that well, but we need to do something. And the roll's a 26 for a 29. That's a little tapper back to Killian, who goes over to first base for the out, and that does it. Ed Killian, 1 strikeout, 4 walks in this game, and has given up no runs and only 3 hits, and he's been pitching marvelously well. And we're going back to the bench, and we're looking to see if we have any sort of pitch runner, or pinch hitter, anybody that we can trust. I know we could go for Walter Clarkson. That feels like cheating. I don't think I really want to do that. I'm looking to see if we have any pitchers, perhaps, who have more at-bats, who might be a little bit more, make a little bit more sense. We could always go to Thielman. If not Thielman, we could always look at going here to Terry Turner. I feel a little bit better about going with Terry Turner as the pinch hitter. A little bit harder here, by the way, in NP3 to keep track of the guys you've used than it is in, say, Diamond Mine Baseball. I have a hard time seeing who have I used already, who haven't I, and then as you can see here from all of these players, I mean, clearly we have some players who probably were not always already on the or were not on the roster quite yet. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players on that roster, plus the 9, plus the one that we've used already. So about 24 men on this roster, which is a little bit too much. for 1908. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We have Terry Turner coming up here with nobody on, 2 outs, and he is the last hope for Cleveland. And he rolls an 11. And the second roll is up, and there's another 11. And Turner winds up with a triple and is on at third base, and he's up at third base for Lejoie, who has a chance to redeem himself in this game. Very well played game so far by both teams. Only 2 errors in the game, both coming from the Tigers. And it's Turner on at third base, Lejoie up at the plate. We're going to keep Killian in. We're going to keep him in, despite the fact that he didn't pitch well against Terry Turner that time. I don't think there's anything anyone could have done about that. And here is the ball game, and the roll is a 64 for a 22, and that's an error result, and that ends up being changed to a 21, and that's a little ground ball over to Rossman at first base, and he boots it so badly that Lejoie is able to make it up to second, and the run scores, and just like that, it's a 1-1 ball game. Napoleon is able to make amends for that very, very poor showing he had just a couple of innings ago. That was in the top of the 7th inning when he wasn't able to drive home the run in a clutch situation. And here's Josh Clark with a runner on at second base. He rolls a 51. 51 is a base hit that scores the runner, and then Clark, of course, has a little C come up and is thrown out stealing. But that does it. That does it there for Cleveland, and they have a 2-1 lead now, just like that. And we go to the bottom of the 9th inning, and this game has turned completely against Detroit. And man, this is exciting, and this is one of the reasons why we love playing this. And we're going to look here quickly at the bench and see who we have as far as possible relief pitchers go. We're not going to put in Addy Joss. I don't think we're going to put in any of these guys who don't really look like excellent pitchers. Trying to think here. We could put in Rhodes, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to put in Jake Thielman. Probably going to put in Thielman. And so Jake Thielman now comes on, and he's going to face the heart of the Detroit order, which, as you know, I always make my own lineups. This is going to be Crawford, Rossman, and Downs. Naps 2, Tigers 1, bottom of the 9th inning. This game has been nothing short but of spectacular. Crawford rolls a 46 for a 29. That's tapped back to Thielman. He makes the play at the mound and throws over to first base. 1 away. Claude Rossman now rolls a 54 for a 45. That's a little fly ball to right field, and it is Hinchman who's got it, and there's 2 away very quickly. And here comes Red Downs for the Tigers, and he's the last chance, and that's a 61 for a 32, and that's another fly ball over to right field where Hinchman's got it, and that is that. And in the end, the Naps win it 2-1 on an exciting game that turned in the 9th inning with 2 runs for Cleveland in the top of the 9th inning as they just barely managed to squeak by with this one. Boy, this was a surprising game, and I certainly hope that you've enjoyed that. If you did enjoy that, above all else, come back for more because we'll have another one for you tomorrow, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun, and I will see you then. Goodbye.